Hello, I'm Anime Viewer 66, and today we're going to be taking a look at Interviews with Monster Girls, a show that, in all honesty, far exceeded my expectations. So we start our story off in a world that has monsters in it. Quote unquote monsters. It's not like Monster Musume, where you have like half human, half octopus creatures or something. They're much more humanoid creatures, which I think works a lot better in the story overall. But these monster creatures all happen to have different sort of little quirks and abilities that aren't fully understood by science because being a demi is kind of rare. It's not like there's entire families of demis. It's more like, hey, you get a roll of the dice and maybe you're born with a demi sort of thing and maybe you're not. We start off the show proper with a high school because originality, thy name is Japan. But seriously, we start off with the main character Takahashi, who is a teacher at the school, biology to be precise, and he has an incredible fascination with demi people, basically the monster people in this. And although they say that it's monster people, like there's monster guys and girls, we only ever see monster girls because, well, moe. Although Mr. Takahashi has never actually been able to see a demi face to face, he is in luck this year because it happens to be that three students and one teacher are demis, and I'll be going over them individually in a little bit. But the story basically from there on just follows him befriending them, learning more about them, and helping them with their little quirks and disabilities, because each of the individual demis have things that make them different from humans and make it a bit harder to live in human society. And from this, you can see obvious parallels between the demis and different minority groups in real life. Most particularly, I would say that it sort of represents LGBT characters, or perhaps different people with different sort of learning disabilities and whatnot. Personally, Mr. Takahashi did remind me a lot of my old special ed teacher, and the fact that that connection is there seems like that may be what they were going for. As for the individual characters, Mr. Takahashi is pretty straightforward. He's just a teacher who really wants to help, but he does have his moments of sort of airheadedness. When he focuses on a problem, particularly a problem with the demis, he has to put all of his brain power in it, and it sort of weirds out some other people, particularly the demis, and they're like, wait, is he lost in thought or something? What's wrong with him? But eventually they come to understand that it's just his thought process. It was pretty cool how they did his character overall, being the kind, caring type, but he's still a teacher, and they still show that in various funny ways. The demi teacher we're introduced into the story is Miss Sato. She is a succubus, which basically just means that she has an arousal that can attract men that are straight and bi, and women who are bi and lesbian. Basically, just anyone who is attracted to women will be attracted to her pretty much regardless. And that's one thing that they sort of play up a bit, the fact that her aphrodisiac effect is something that she can't control. It's not like she can just activate it and boom, magic powers. It's more of a thing that just happens to her. And this makes her have to dress in like several layers because the more layers she has on, the less the aphrodisiac effect can take place and whatnot. This is sort of a weird way to have a character, I will admit, because she is so like trying her best to fit into normal society, but at the same time she has to go through all these hoops and ladders to just be able to live in normal human society. Out of all the various demis that they show in this little series, well, only really four, but you get my point. She probably has the hardest out of all of them because of the extreme lengths she has to go through. I won't go through all of the other stuff that she has to do, but let's just say it is a monstrous task to have to do like every day just to live. And they do a good job of showing her very, very troubled mind state, especially when it comes to her finding like someone to date, because she feels like if she dates someone, then they'll only be attracted to her because of her aphrodisiac effect and not because it's really her. And that is a kind of emotional and touching way to add to a character that you wouldn't normally see in a succubus story. Then we go to the Dullahan Maki. A Dullahan is basically just a headless person, like a person that carries around their head. Yeah, they go into more detail of exactly how this works in the show. I'm not gonna try to get into it, but for all of you that have seen Dorara, you'll know about this sort of character and whatnot. But she happens to be a very smart and intelligent girl who gets good grades and becomes friends with the other demis and whatnot. She's probably the most realistic out of all of the characters. Kind of ironic considering out of all the other characters, she's also probably the most, like, obviously a demi. Like, if they were the X Men, she would be Beast or something like that because She's the one that's most obviously different from the others and whatnot. But the fact that they made her also the most normal kind of gives a parallel to that, and I think that's cool. Then there's the ice woman Yuki. She's very shy and at the beginning is afraid that she'll freeze someone to death if she gets too close to them or whatnot. Now, as the story goes on, they go more in depth into that and just how her quote unquote ice powers work. And surprisingly, even though obviously snow women don't exist, they give a very quote unquote scientific explanation of how her powers might work. And I thought that was cool. Last but certainly not least is Akari, the out of control, crazy vampire chick. Oh, where to even start with this character? First off, best girl of the like winter season, hands down, like not even a contest. And all around, I'm just gonna say this now. She is the most fun character in this entire show, in a show full of fun characters. Like, she's full of energy, she's a natural born leader, she tries to help people when she can, but she does it in a very mischievous way, and it's freaking adorable. Also, her little, like, bun vampire ear hair is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Just everyone watch this show for this character. Go watch it now. But at the end of the day, I give this show 4 stars out of 5. It's an incredibly entertaining show. I wasn't bored with any of the episodes. It's one of those shows that just makes you feel happy about life and whatnot. And it's one that I would suggest everyone see as soon as possible. With all that said, I'm the Anime Viewer 66. Thank you, and good night.